online can hear me too. There we go. What we're going to do is we have about an hour, a little less than probably at this point, and so there's no way we could possibly relate everything that happened to us in just an hour. So not everybody is going to get a chance to tell you everything to everything we're asking. We're going to try to save a little bit of time at the end for you to ask us questions, and with that, I'm just going to jump right into the first question, and we're going to move along here. Okay, so the first question, Violet volunteered to take the first question. It will be as soon as they realize you need it. And let me make sure it's also on your 12. Okay, there. Now the online people can hear you too.
Okay. Oh, now I can hear myself.
Look at
okay.
that.
Yeah, so should I say the question?
Well, I'll tell you the first question. The first question was that we were asked like 6 questions to kind of relate to you and then whatever else you want to throw at us. But Violet had something to say about how God opened doors for her to share with the campers. And then depending on how long the answer goes, we might get to hear from somebody else too.
Yeah, so I'd say just the first couple of days was really nerve-wracking, but I went into it just praying that I would have opportunities, and I fully expected God to meet my prayer. I knew that I would have an opportunity at some point, whether it kind of fell into my lap or whether I had to fight for it, to be able to share the good news with at least just one camper. I've been able to share the gospel with a few people in my life, and I know how important it is just that one person can be. So I knew if it was just one kid, one time, if I said something small, that would be sufficient. And I knew that would be sufficient for God as well. And so, I just went into the camp, and I would just pray in the evening before I went to bed that the following day I could talk to a camper about it. And at first it was difficult because all of us were trying to get to know each other, and it's really difficult to not only be having conversations with kids that are not speaking your native language, but also being able to talk to them and get to know them and somehow comfortably get Jesus in there. It's awkward. And so, there was a couple of kids I specifically felt like I really connected with. And what I found was that God opened up doors using my testimony quite a bit. I shared, I think it was like a Tuesday evening or a Wednesday evening, I shared my testimony, and it was really nerve-wracking, but I ended up finding out the following days that 5 out of the 6 of my campers had divorced parents, and quite a few of them didn't have relationships with their dad, and that's my story. And so being able to start having more private conversations with my students as well as other kids who were their students, but I just started to connect with. I just had a couple of moments. There was one morning I got up, and I would get up kind of early, but I had gotten up earlier than usual. And I was just walking around the camp, and I ran into one girl. She was just sitting on a bench by herself, and I noticed that she tended to sit by herself, and her name was Margareta. And we just started talking, and then Eric had mentioned that maybe we go on a walk together. And so we walked around the track at camp, and she just started opening up about that she had heard my testimony, and how she as well had divorced parents, and her dad wasn't in the picture, and her dad was remarried. And so we were able to connect over that, and even though in that one conversation I wasn't able to talk to her about Jesus, I wrote all my students a letter at the end, and so I ended up writing her one too, and I was able to just thank her for opening up to me, and I just wrote John 3:16 in there and just tried to kind of point her back to Christ, and that how much it meant to me that she opened up about something so personal. So I think it was definitely my testimony. And then there was a different moment where I had prayed, I think either that morning or the night before, that one girl, Sophie, I just prayed that I could share the gospel with her the following day. I just felt like it was kind of time. And I happened to be walking back, and she was sitting with Mason and Sarah at a bench, and I asked if I could join the conversation, and she really opened up, and it was just kind of an emotional moment for all of us. And there was always that moment of silence, someone shares something personal, and then after it's kind of the little bit of awkward silence, and I was thinking in my head, like, say something about Jesus, like, get Christ in there. But I couldn't get the words out. And so Mason started, and he was able to share the gospel with her, and from that, it gave me the confidence to share a little bit more. And then I wouldn't have ever thought about it, but then Sarah asked me to pray for her, and I asked her if she'd be okay with that, and she was very willing. And so then I prayed for her, and it was best experience there. And so, I think that kind of ends it for me, but just there were definitely moments where I felt like just the little prayers that I prayed, God used greatly.
That is super awesome, because I love that you did that, because I was so exhausted I didn't even think to do that. Honestly, I was just trying to get through every day, so that's really cool. We have a couple of minutes on this question if anybody else wants to grab the mic.
Yeah, I had a pretty similar experience where I got to share my testimony towards the end of the week on Friday, and by that point, many of the students had started to hear about this time period we had in the second half of the afternoon called Life Stories, where we just got up and shared our testimonies, what God has done in our lives. And several students had missed mine, and they found me afterwards, and they said, we heard that you shared your life story and we missed it. Like, can you tell it to us again? And I was like, absolutely. And so me and this group of like 3 students were walking around the campus and listening to my story as I told it to them. And I even had one student who was very good with her English, and she was able to translate for the other students. And then, I got through my whole story about kind of how I worked through my mom passing away at age 14, and came to find out that I think 2 or 3 of this group that eventually followed around with 4 people, 2 or 3 of them also had parents who had passed away. So that was just very coincidental in a God way. And I think the best part was I was able to seamlessly take my story and turn it into a gospel presentation for those students. And they walked with me for, I think it was 2 or more hours as I went through the whole thing. And at the moment where I was like, have you guys actually heard like what the Bible is all about? And one student overhearing this joins in the group. He's like, I want to hear what the Bible's all about. And I was like, great, here we go. So that was a little nerve-wracking, but then, we got through the whole story. And I asked if I could pray for them, and they, wanted to hear me pray for them. And so I sat with them and prayed for them. And then we just kind of continued talking about other things as well throughout the rest of the evening. But that was just really amazing. I was not, unlike with Violet, I wasn't like praying for that moment. I wasn't expecting that moment. I just knew God was going to do something. I just didn't know when or where, but it just kind of came to me, which was really cool to see.
Awesome. And I would encourage you to find all of these people afterwards, because they're going to have like at least 100 more stories that would be easier to share one-on-one. So ask them all the questions at the end. We're just going to keep going down the line because Mason volunteered for the next one. So, so Mason, tell us a bit about how the team worked and grew together as we ministered.
Well, I have to say, it probably started before we even went to camp. When we first heard about it, we were just like, let's do this. It was originally to start with Luke and I, because we were just like, we should go do something. And then we heard about this mission trip, so we signed up for it. And then our young adults group grew 2 more people, and so then we invited them into it, and then we just started planning then after that. But at the very beginning of it, we're all just like, okay, we know that this is going to be a tough trip. This is going to be, the enemy's going to want us to either not go, well, definitely not to go, but for using different ways. either confrontation between us or something like that. And so we would meet, I want to say every Monday before we went, and we'd be praying over the trip and just talking it over and just trying to get all the issues that we could at least foresee just out of the way. And so we were working together in that. And then when we were actually at the camp, it was kind of I didn't know what really to expect with being a leader of a conversational English camp, because I still don't know any Hungarian. So I was like, okay, well, we'll see how this goes. But I think that we all just helped each other out, because during the camp, we had this curriculum that I followed for like 2-3 days, and then kind of the end of the third day, I'm like, this is not working. Like, I'm not able to talk. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm engaging the kids at all. So Kurt and I were actually leading a group together, and I just came up to him like, can we just get rid of this? Because this is just not working.
I was really proud of Mason at that moment, because for 2.5 days, I think he'd been deferring to me because I'm old. And so after day 2.5, he realized, wait a minute, I have something to contribute here. Yeah. And it changed the course of how our group reacted. It was great.
Yeah. So then we just went, honestly, we knew that these kids, first time talking with like English native speakers, especially from America, and so we just had them like ask us questions, because working on a conversation, it's gotta ask questions, gotta answer questions. So that's what I was thinking. Also, Luke helped me out as well, because he has also had past experience with camps. He knows how to like engage kids way more than I do. So I used some of his ideas. Yeah, no copyright here. But so you did use some of his ideas, and those really did help. And so just using the other ideas of the other leaders I think that we helped engage even more so with that. So.
Yeah, and that was a pivotal turning point for us. So from Luke through you, I think the whole team rallied right about midweek. It just like clicked for all of us. And I'd say from my perspective, the life stories were a huge part of understanding where we're coming from. And I don't know about you, but it like really helped me. All of a sudden, I didn't feel like I was just this old guy hanging out with it. It's like I feel like I knew you, even though I haven't spent a lot of time with the young adults. So it was awesome. Does anybody else? We have a few more minutes on that. If anybody else wants to chime in, there's a theme here.
I'm not saying I'm going to answer. I'm just asking if you could repeat the question again.
Okay. The question is how the team grew together and grew to work better together as we ministered.
So what he said.
Sweet. All right. Cool. Okay, so this next bit is going to be kind of an open question to anybody that wants to grab the mic, because we're down a member at the moment. And this is applicable to everyone up here. How was the team able to overcome the fear and anxiety of being in a strange country, not speaking the language, with kids that react totally different than any American kid that we've ever interacted with, right? How did we overcome that?
Okay.
Also like first going into it, I really didn't know what to expect. I've heard other things that about like the culture of Hungary, and I was like, okay, just gotta keep that in mind. But actually talking with the kids, it's like they seemed to know more about like pop culture and things like that than I did. And so I was like, okay, like they're like singing these songs that were from America, and
like when I played the theme song from Arcane, everyone in the group just started singing along. They made me actually turn it up. It was hilarious.
It's kind of crazy, and just made me realize that one, yes, you can go over different countries, and they can have different languages and maybe different traditions or something like that. But really, wherever you go, those are just like, it's like popular culture kind of goes along with that. And so then you just look at them like, wow, okay, so this is more like what I'm kind of used to as well. They may not completely understand my language, but we had a translator when I was giving my life story. Her first time also was translating when I was giving my life story, and yeah, she was awesome. But it was this kind of like first experience for both of us in that sense, and that's just with the translators. I mean, it helped us talk with the kids even better, and how to relate with them as well.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, every group that we had a native Hungarian speaker to help us translate when we were off the rails or whatever, and they were participating with every single group that we had. Each group had six or seven of the campers, and two of us from America and the one native Hungarian.
So kind of springboarding off of that, taking a while, but then eventually getting to know your students. Kitty and I both got to know our students pretty well because our group was so advanced with their English that we actually didn't need the translator at all. He just sat there very patiently waiting for us to and he didn't need to say a word, but we asked him to participate at some point, so that was kind of fun. But the important thing is that these students that I shared the gospel with on that Friday night, none of them were in my group, and so I was really nervous to actually talk to them because I hadn't established that kind of relationship of knowing, okay, what is their leveling of English? What kind of vocabulary can I use to really communicate this with them? How can I relate to them? What are their backgrounds like, so that I am not just using words that they don't know. It's like, oh, well, have you heard about Jesus? Who's that? I didn't have any of that prior knowledge. And so being nervous in that, I was talking to Zach, the leader of the camp, and he said, hey, I want you to go talk to this one particular student because I know that his dad had passed away, and I just want you to be able to relate with your story with him. And I was like, I don't know what this kid looks like. I don't know how to find him. I need your help. And he was like, yeah, I'll go with you. But then something came up and he couldn't. And he's like, you know what? Take the Holy Spirit with you. He's better. And I'm like, you're right. He is. And so I did. And I literally, before I even walked out the door of the building, the first group of 2 students walked up and they were like, hey, we want to hear your life story. I'm like, okay, I guess this is starting. And then we were going. And the student who joined me later, who said, I want to hear about what the Bible has to say, is the very student that Zach said, go and find. So yeah, that was just really cool to have that fear and that trepidation, and then for God to just kind of it away. So that was really neat to see.
I want to park on this topic for a little bit because I know every single one of us has something in this vicinity that we had to either overcome or some cool thing that happened in the midst of our anxiety that knocked it right out of us. Somebody else has got to want to say something. Come on.
Why are you looking at me?
Because you were looking at me.
Kitty, you want to say anything? No? The only one that didn't have any anxiety was probably David, because he speaks Hungarian and lived there and everything. Yeah, see, I knew if I waited long enough, one of you would grab the mic.
Great. Yeah, I think all of us dealt with some fear. For me, I felt a little intimidated by my campers because they were so close in age to me. The oldest one was 17. I'm 18, and so at first it was a little scary for me because I was like, they're 16, 17, and so it didn't quite feel like when I first started, I can be their teacher. I didn't know how they were going to be looking at me because I wanted them to see me first as a friend and also as a teacher, and I just wasn't sure how that dynamic was going to work. But I actually found that my age is what really helped me, and I think it was really neat to see how God could use me being young Because by the end of the camp, it's like the campers had, they had always treated me with such respect, and I could tell that they saw me as their teacher in the way that they addressed me and communicated with me, but they also saw me as their friend. And I saw them as some of my best friends as well. And so, I think it was just a little bit of anxiousness in the beginning, but as the week went on, I was kind of praying about it, and I just had to realize, like, I'm young and I'm close in age to them, but I can use this for my advantage. And I feel like I did, because it was like I would have been friends with them had they lived in Colorado. There wasn't any division between that, and I found that to be something really neat. So, yeah.
Awesome. Anybody else want to grab a mic before I interject something? All right. Well, while I'm talking, you can think about who's going to get the mic next. I was not immune to this either, just so you know. And I didn't have the giant. At least you all had each other, right? I was just like, I think my whole defense against fear and anxiety was just like, well, I'm along for the ride. Whatever happens is all good, right? I think the biggest anxiety hit me in the lunchroom. When we're supposed to sit there and talk to people, I'm like, and it took me until the cool kids found out about my gaming, until that was what it took to get me to sit with people and talk with them, because otherwise I was just like, and I'm just gonna go sit off in the corner by myself again. It's just weird. Americans are raised with this whole don't start a conversation with random stranger thing. I don't know where we get it, but the truth is these kids are raised very differently. They're way too polite to say, no, you can't sit here. So seriously, if you just flop your tray down, you're good. A conversation started. So, it was. Did you want to say something, Aaron?
Yeah, I want to say something about. Hello. I wanted to say something about Violet's age. I thought it was really, really neat. I think she was probably a little offended by this, but I talked to her about it later. But a friend of mine from England came to the camp, and he was her partner. And after a few days, we were next to them, and I could see Violet doing better and better, and my friend Dave just left. And I asked him, what was that about? And he said, oh, she was doing great. She's completely fine by herself. And she really just completely has blossomed. It was just really cool to see how he basically had the attitude of, I've done this before. I've been an English teacher. She hasn't, and she's doing great. Why am I here in the way? So he would go off and come back every once in a while. And
it doesn't say he did not communicate that to me. So I'm glad he thought I was doing a good job. I did not feel like I was doing a good job, so it's a little scary.
I think that's universal. None of us, especially right up until midweek, none of us thought we were doing a good job. They're just staring at me. What do I do? So, but, all right, so here we go. This is actually an easy one, and Mason, you volunteered to start this thing. So, how did God bless you through this trip?
Well, I am an introvert, and doing this camp is really brought out a part of me I didn't realize I had, of actually being okay with talking with other people that, one, I don't know, and going to another country that I've never been, don't know anything about that, and then also even just giving my life story I did on Thursday, and even just having emotion. I'm not one to really have much emotion at all, and camp kind of brought that out, and I feel like that was definitely a really good personal growing experience going to camp. And also I was definitely blessed because, as you can see with the shirt up here, at the end of camp I had all the kids sign their names on the shirt that our group, we won a quiz night, and so we all got a shirt. So I had them all sign their shirt at the end of the camp, and it was this, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of this, when you sum up everything at the end of a story, you go through each individual character in the story and just kind of sum up what happened. I was able to go up to each kid at the end of the camp and just like talk with them, and then just about how the camp was, what they enjoyed, what they didn't, but at the very end just got all their names, and I just thought that was really good. And so this shirt is a physical representation of how I feel at the end of the camp, that they all made an impression on me in their own individual ways. So.
Yeah, I was paired with Mason, and so I got to watch a lot of this stuff firsthand, which was super awesome. Anybody else want to? It's the easiest one. I mean, how did God bless you? We have a really excited picture of you singing, Kitty.
The one like that, I was not.
You need a microphone for that.
I'll hold it for you.
What do I say?
How did God bless you?
Oh.
She literally, she was completely okay with standing up in front of the entire ministry team and singing praise songs, hands raised and everything. It was great, and she can't talk now. So, that's how it goes. Yeah, that's right. You could sing it. You could sing your praises. So, David, did you have something down there? The mic is mobile. It can go down the row.
Oh, okay. Well, so during the camp, I did have the privilege of speaking both languages, which also gave me an upper hand in making more personal relationships with the kids, because I could relate to their culture a bit more. So that gave me more time and less effort to communicate with people, so I could spend time with them in activities and all kinds of talks at night. And yeah, there were many opportunities that were a blessing. I could play piano in the worship team. I could help out around the camp. I mean, this whole camp was just a blessing in itself. It was just a good opportunity. So, yeah.
Thanks, David. I got to hang out with David for like 2.5 days in Budapest. I had my own personal tour guide. He was awesome. So it was great. And I haven't spent, a couple hours back in the booth, but it was great to get to spend time with David in a more, you get to show me everything he knows about Budapest. Well, not everything, but we got to go back next year. So. See, the funny thing is, John's over there not saying anything, and he was cracking me up the entire time. So it was amazing. What's funny is the personalities that you're seeing up here on the stage are not necessarily representative of how things were on the mission field. So I can personally attest to that. You breathed, so.
I was just going to say, just kind of share the John connection with Blessing. This whole team is so mature. It took a lot of work to get us there, but once we were there, it wasn't like I need to keep an eye on these people or those people.
Not to maturity, there to Hungary.
Yes, they're just super mature. I don't know what I said. They're super mature, and Cambria had mentioned that her and John were the youngest team, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're 19 and he's 18, and I just boom, there you go. Those are your 6 kids. See ya, and that's kind of what it was for everybody, and we all figured it out, and it was just so cool to be able to. When I was 18 or 19, you couldn't have done that to me. I would have been screwed up. So just let you know, they're all just so mature, and it's just a blessing they've been. So
it's kind of interesting on the subject of maturity too. My group, Mason and I, we had Dave's friend's 14-year-old daughter with us, and she was older than some of our campers and right at the same age of the rest of them. And frankly, I was a little nervous because well, she was 14 and she was pretty chatty, and she liked to be the first one to answer questions and stuff. So I was a little nervous about how the week was going to go. And then I just watched as she befriended like every camper in the camp. And I couldn't turn around without her she was just running off with like 4 other campers all over the place. It was amazing to watch. We had some young people, not some really young people, and all of them were used by God to do amazing things at this camp. It just blew my mind. There's still more? Any other? All right, moving on. All right, so this is the part where everyone should really have something to say. Praise reports. Praise God for what he did at the camp. See, you're going to stick David with it because he's got the microphone.
Well, I think the very first praise was just even before the camp is how much money we raised so we can cover all our expenses.
Yeah, that was huge. Thank you.
Yeah.
And let me just say thank you to all of you.
Yeah. Anything else?
All right. We're going to go down the line here. So, yeah, there we go. No. Just anything. Praise. A praise that happened.
Hello. So I guess one of my praises at the camp was just being with being able to be with a different kind of people outside of America for a change, and that was pretty nice because we got to be able to share God's love towards other kids that were not from the same country as us. So that was pretty cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, your turn.
All right, well, at the end of the camp, a lot of us kind of felt like maybe we didn't share enough with the kids and that we weren't that much of an impact. But at the end of the week, kids would be hugging us goodbye, and they would be getting your social media to keep in touch. And what? Yeah, the selfies.
Yep.
It really showed all of us how much it actually impacted them.
Yeah.
So that's a big praise.
Yeah, they even took selfies with me. So, good? Yeah? Anything else? Otherwise, Hannah.
No.
Okay, so mine are kind of a little bit more personal. One is the fact that I could actually sleep at night. I don't sleep well in general. Plus, there were a lot of bugs in the cabin. I don't love bugs. But every night, I'd kill all the ants in my bed, brush them off, and then lay down and be like, God, I pray that I could sleep tonight and not think about the bugs. And I did. And I'm also very gluten intolerant, and every single meal was pasta or bread or something, and I was fine. So I'm very, very grateful for that. Yeah, the bugs. Yeah, that was going to be one of my praises was, just being so content with being out of my usual routine. I like being sanitary and having the stuff around me clean. I hate bugs. So
the exact opposite of camp.
So, there was a squirrel in our room.
Well, it was a European edible dormouse.
That was in our room.
Yeah. Seriously, that's what it's called. We looked it up because it was the weirdest creature.
Yeah, so I had to get used to sleeping knowing that there were spiders and ants in my bed, and I was content. So that was good. That was a praise. And then I think another praise is honestly just how much fun we had. It was just a week of so much laughter and so much joy, and I love to laugh. I think all of us just love to laugh, and so being with the kids and all the games we played, and it was, I don't know, I just had an absolute blast. And I had never been to summer camp, so it was my first experience of summer camp, and it was great, and I'd definitely do it again.
I think that the coolest thing that I noticed was the actual camp facility, the campgrounds, were an old Soviet youth camp. And I just think it's so cool that God took this this place that was used for like indoctrination, and it's like, the party is your God, God means nothing, and God has turned that place dedicated for that purpose and totally flipped it on its head to be used for this purpose. I mean, this stone inscription still stands at the entrance of camp, and it says, it's some like Soviet leader like carved into the stone, and it says, loyalty to the people, loyalty to the party. And so for that, well, in Hungarian, but the I just think that that's so neat that God has taken that and just flipped it completely.
Mason, didn't you climb that statue?
I did.
I think we have that picture,
we have a picture
too.
of it
Yeah,
somewhere.
he's sitting on top of the carved head thing.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Major praise of mine is kind of like what I've already shared, is just experiencing God's work with those kids. Kind of like what Johnny said, just that you don't realize how much of an impact that you are actually making to the kids until they actually come up to you. They're like, "Can we give you a hug?" I'm like, sure. And I'm not the kind of person that is much for physical affection either. So there's lots of stuff out of my comfort zone in this trip. But this is a major praise, and also that everything just, I don't know. I didn't know how it was going to work, but it worked amazingly. Just because it was blessed. I remember this sermon that actually I heard from Nick, that he's like, heaven's not about, like the gold and the pearly gates and all that. It's because God's there. That's what makes it heavenly. And that's what this trip was. I mean, there weren't any, golden streets or pearly gates. There were, I don't know, these bugs.
Dirt
that
streets,
like
cobbles,
beetles that were huge. just
ginormous
absolutely
bugs.
Ginormous, and just, demon wombats.
Spiders the
as they're
size
called.
of 50-cent pieces.
Yeah, but it's because God was there. That's what made it heavenly. And yes, it was in a Soviet camp. I mean, the basketball court wasn't even fixed. Nothing like that. It was just, but just everything about it was just so. It was amazing how it worked.
Yes.
That's all I can say about that.
Cool. There's more.
Okay, now I have to actually talk.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
See what I did there?
I'd say what happened to Violet and Luke, how campers actually related to things that weren't so great in their lives, and they got to share with them. The whole time I felt like I didn't really make an impact on the kids because, I don't know, all the campers kind of like Luke more. From my point of view, that's what I thought. And 2 of our campers left in the middle of the week, and it wasn't because of us. There was different reasons, but they never came to me. They always came to Luke and was like, "Bye, Luke. You really impacted us." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." And then at the end of the camp, I finally realized, just because I didn't make a big, just because I didn't see that I made a big impact doesn't mean, they didn't like me. And that doesn't mean, they didn't actually feel, a connection. It's just, they like Luke more. Who wouldn't? We all love Luke.
All right, Sarah had her praises for our team, how we loved everyone, and this, you could see the support, and people could see that support.
Sarah also is responsible for the slideshow, by the way, and probably 60-70% of the pictures in the entire. So that was a huge contribution. We have an immense amount of photos. We can't possibly forget our time there. So thank you for being there and taking all those pictures for us. You've still got the mic, bro.
I'm right back to what the other question I answered is just the praise that this team has just worked really good together, and it was just so neat to be able to see at the end of camp, kind of like you mentioned, that that you weren't sure the kids wanted to come back, and all of them wanted to come back, including the ones that are aging out, like, sorry, I'll be in college next year. They wanted to come back if they could. And everybody here has said they want to come back. You kind of have this, subconscious fear that you're going to have some people like, yeah, that was fun, but yeah, not with you.
Well, and I don't know, raise your hand if you had a kid ask you if you were coming back next year. Like, we didn't ask for this. They just came up, you coming back next year? Like, almost all of them. It was great. So, Violet. Not Violet. I'm looking at Hannah, and I said Violet when I meant Hannah. Hannah, the other Violet. You had something that you wanted to share. And this will be that series of slides back there, guys. And she'll tell you when to move the slides, I guess.
Yeah.
Click the first slide on the, there we go.
We'll just stick it on that one for a minute. So I'm going to read it because this is what I wrote on Instagram a couple days ago. So, my friend texted yesterday and asked how my trip to Hungary was and what the most challenging part was. I said the hardest part of English camp was trying to have meaningful conversations with the campers. I don't feel like I had any. I saved my own money, but also traveled on the support of others. God clearly provided for me to go because I couldn't have without outside funding, so I expected big things. Then I got there, and I didn't know why I was there. I saw my friends having deep connections with kids outside of class. I heard about opportunities they had to pray with campers. Then there was me, sitting through an entire meal in near silence, struggling to make class fun and literally wandering around a former communist kids camp during free time, looking for someone to talk to. My text to my friend about the challenges didn't stop there. I added, maybe there's meaning in the conversations that I didn't think mattered. Then I realized something. Every conversation mattered. Every moment mattered. Why? Because every kid at camp matters. That's selfish of me to imply that any moment at camp was meaningless. I asked the kids in my class what they hope to happen I asked the kids in my class what they hope to see happen at camp. After they answered, one of them returned the question. I said I wanted people to see Jesus in me. You can go ahead and go through those pictures just to the last one. So maybe seeing Jesus in me looks like playing ninja on the blacktop. Maybe it's running and screaming kamikaze style in numbers war.
Excellent.
Maybe it's getting nailed with water balloons and taking revenge with a full bucket of water. Maybe it's sitting in silence at meals or walking together to get a Rice Krispie treat. We tend to grasp at big moments and underrate small ones, but Jesus lived on earth 30 years before he did a single miracle. Most of his life was lived in small, inglorious, unrecorded moments. You can just go ahead and, stop at that picture. The first picture in this post, or this slideshow, was of some tile in Hungary, but it's shower tile. Showers are gross. Showers are where we go to wash off the sweat, and we know about sweat. We focus on the result of the shower and miss the beauty of the shower structure itself. Sometimes we need to slow down and look at things with a new perspective, because if you do that, you start to notice beautiful details in seemingly insignificant places.
Thank you, Hannah. So, yep.
That was not a camp shower.
No, that was not a camp shower. No, that was an Airbnb shower. Camp showers were very different. So I think we've come to the part of the show where you get to ask anything you want. So I have another microphone here. It's number 13 for the sound guys, in which I am one. There we go. Now, the other people will be able to hear. If anybody has a question, Terry, can I get you to pass this mic around to anybody that wants to ask a question? There we go. I knew there'd be at least one. And if it's for somebody specific, please feel free to indicate that, and we'll get them a mic.
Okay, well, that will be my first question. I don't know who most of those people are up on the stage, so if you could just run through and introduce them, that would be great. Second, I can relate to an experience teaching at an English camp. I had the privilege of going to Thailand twice and teaching in an English camp, and I know all about people gravitating to your social media. I still have those friends on social media, and they will connect with you. It's just amazing the impact that you can have on those kids, and it will last forever. So I just enjoyed hearing about your time. No, my question is, who are you?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I was going to. So starting at that end, we have Aaron on the end, Aaron Dipert, Jonathan Dipert, John, David Payne, Hannah, and I can't, Tachi? Okay, Hannah Tachi, and Violet. I don't even know your last name. Seriously? You have my first name as your last name? Awesome. Violet Curtis, right there. Luke Downey, I was getting there. Mason Cito, I don't know Mason. Kitty Dipert, Sarah Dipert, Eric Dipert, and Kurt Fuller. Does that help? There you go. And Cambry also was part of the trip and isn't here right now. Cambry Martin? Okay, Cambry Martin. Any other questions? In the back.
I was just noticing how much fun it looked like you guys had doing like skits with like Santa Claus was at the Statue of Liberty, like a battle. Can you explain some of that fun? Because it just looked really exciting.
Yeah, I'll set the stage and then let them chime in here. So the way the camp was structured, we had a couple of days of not a whole lot other than just the life stories in the middle. Then Wednesday, they did a talent show. And they said every year they feel like nobody's going to want to participate in this talent show. We shouldn't even bother to do it. And we had an inordinate number of people sign up this year. It's like we had jugglers, we had all kinds of crazy stuff happen in the talent show. But the whole camp builds toward an event on like Friday night where they did a Eurovision lip sync battle kind of thing where we picked a song, and then Zach came along after we'd picked the song and dropped a theme and a prop on us that we were required to use. So for example, Mason and I, we had our campers suggest this lovely romantic slow ballad, right? It was called Glimpse of Us by Joji. Never heard of it, but it was a cool song, right? And so we were all planning, and then Zach comes in and says, oh, by the way, your prop is Bruce Willis, and your theme is Star Wars. Good luck. And that's where we went. It was utterly ridiculous and a lot of fun from my perspective. It was crazy.
Do we have the video of that available?
I have the video of that. Okay. I don't know that I ever want anyone else to see the video of that.
That's fair. That's fair. They did win the competition for that one.
Thank you. I think, to be honest, we won because it was utterly ridiculous. It was crazy. Basically, we had two of our male campers decided that, hey, I can wear a wig, and so they like did this slow dance meeting thing, and then meanwhile a lightsaber / Bruce Willis machine gun battle breaks out behind them. It was just silly, very silly.
I heard it was Bruce Willis.
Shocking. I don't know. I think I was typecast. Yeah.
Real quick, I just want to say it wasn't the Statue of Liberty. That was one of my kids. So we had chosen to do. My kids wanted to do like fruit salad. They wanted to make fruit salad during our song. It was confusing, but I let them run with that. So we had already decided to do fruit, and we had picked a song. And then, Zach showed up, and he said we had to include Santa and an earthquake. So we went with that, too. We didn't drop our original idea. And then one of the kids, he decided he wanted to be Grinch. And then they also wanted a Star Wars battle. So, they wanted to have lightsabers. And it went really well. We got second place. I think the Star Wars really helped us through it. Yeah.
So Luke and I's was really interesting. Our song was Kokomo, and our prop was a toilet, and the theme was beach. So naturally, there's a toilet on a beach. And at the end, I don't know why they did this, but all the guys went shirtless, and it's really disturbing. And one of the guys had a bikini top under his shirt. So,
True story.
and we started dancing around. None of us knew what we were doing. We spent like the whole day trying to make this work, and it just did not work out. But we got 4th place, which, I mean, that's pretty good.
Is frankly a miracle for what, I mean, I thought it went well, but then I look back at the video and we're all just like moving on stage to the beat of Kokobo. That's about it.
And it took Luke and I about an hour and a half to do all the props. I had to write all the signs, so you're welcome, all of my campers.
It was more like 3 hours to make the props, and they were almost irrelevant, so that was fun though.
But it's important to note that all of the campers were 100% engaged in this activity. As ridiculous as it was, maybe because it was ridiculous, I don't know, but they were 100% into it. And with my group, I mean, I may have steered a little bit on the choreography, but they were all, most of the ideas were theirs. So
Similar with our group as well.
yeah. You want to talk about your group, John? I know you do.
Okay, well, we didn't have any ideas until Zach, the leader, gave us our prop and theme. I think our prop was penguins, and our theme was at the zoo. So I was like, you know what, let's make this basic, okay? We decided to do it to the chicken dance song. No idea why. So I spent the entire week making the props. You know, we had black paper. I made beaks.
Oh, there they are, right there.
We just slapped white right here. I made feet, and so you know, there's a bunch of motions to the song. There's like 4 that repeat. So we made them, we like kind of twisted them a little bit so it actually looks like penguins.
Yep.
But yeah, we put all that work and we didn't get any votes. But it was still super fun.
It was adorable.
The only way we put the zoo at the zoo theme in was I threw a zookeeper sign, and at the beginning of the song, they would all waddle up to the front, and I chased them. I was like, "Get back here, penguins!" And yeah. It didn't go too well, but it was.
Yeah, they were excellently coordinated. It was actually really, really cool. I think the rest of it just got more ridiculous. I think that was what happened.
We spent half of so there's like 2.5 hours at the beginning of each day to do, I think, was it just your English class, you know, talking to the kids. And we spent half the days doing the motions, so.
You were very heavily invested.
Yeah. It was kind of, at the end, I kind of felt like it wasn't really worth putting all that effort into it because so Zach's wife, Mira, she collected all the votes at the end, and I walk up to her, and I was like, "Can I see all the votes?" Because I knew I wasn't top 3. They only gave top 3. I was like, "Can I see all the votes?" And she was like, "Are you sure?" So I was like, "Yeah, just show me." And she was like, she slowly turned the paper towards me, and she was like, "I'm so sorry." We were the only group with no votes. So.
But your campers were completely all in.
Yeah, we didn't tell the campers because that would be
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't want to bust that, but so Anybody else?
So in contrast to the other members of the youth, young adults group, I wasn't with anybody here. I was actually with somebody called Shayna from New York.
Yeah.
And a Hungarian translator called Gábor. So, and the first day, we had already decided, well, we started talking about what we should do. And then some of our group members were actually really good at like acrobatics and like gymnastics, and they could do like flips.
Oh, you had the jugglers.
Yeah, and the jugglers. And so we were like, we're gonna do a circus theme. And we're just gonna choose a random song. We haven't decided on the song yet. And then Wednesday, Zach came along and gave us a pretty good combo, actually. It was the 80s and an American flag. So we decided to combine our circus with the 80s and the American flag. And so we chose a song from Stevie Wonder. And I was Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
So
it was hilarious because David had been actually playing piano all week, and here he comes in and sits down and fakes playing the piano.
Well, the reason was because all the soundboard was right next to the piano. So I was wearing like these. I had my hair, oh gosh. I had my hair like tied back, and I was like, that's good. Yeah. And so the piano wasn't plugged in at all because everything had to be moved for the performances.
That's true.
So, and then we had, first, it was like someone jump roping, and then someone doing like flips and juggling with oranges. And I think there was a guy that came with like a mountain bike and started drifting around.
Yep.
And then at the end, we did like this kind of pyramid where I lifted somebody up, and they were holding the American flag and just waving it. So it was cool.
Yeah.
I think we're like 5th or 6th.
The natural question is, how many were there? There were like 8 groups.
Yeah, there were 8. I think we got like 20 points, which is like 2 votes, I think, because it was 10 or 8, 9, and 10. 8, 10, and 12. Yeah.
I think the upshot is that this was incredibly a fun part that really engaged all of the campers in the activity, and it really kind of was the culmination of the camp. And then I think Zach's told his life story the next day on Saturday. Is that how that?
Friday.
That was also Friday. Yeah. So that was one of the high points. I mean, everybody was pretty pumped at that point. So.
I don't know whose group it was, but at the very end, last group, they were like throwing hot dogs at us.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
the pig kill.
I'm actually surprised, honestly, that you guys didn't get points and ours did, because I didn't feel super great about our group, but we picked the Greatest Showman song, and then Zach, as usual, ruined everyone's plans, and gave us, here, do a Hungarian pig slaughter, and your prop is sour cream. So Aaron had the great idea to make a pig out of watermelon, and so we made a little pig and brought him into the Greatest Showman song, and then, like, at the downbeat of the song, we killed the pig, and then
with a giant sharp rock.
Yeah, and then and then we got out hot dogs and cut them up and then threw them at the
And then they
crowd.
threw hot dogs at the crowd, covered in sour cream.
So yeah, I forget the name of this thing, but it's this Hungarian tradition to kill the pig and then make sausage that same day, and so you have the sausage for dinner. And so they got hot dogs to be the sausage replacement, and so then they dipped them in the sour cream prop, and then they all walked out from behind this table they were like presenting at, and everyone knew what was coming and just started screaming no or nem nem nem, which is no in Hungarian, and then they just started throwing hot dogs like candy. And it's covered in sour cream and it's smearing on you. Oh, it was awful. And that, if there weren't bugs before, there were bugs after.
Okay. Yeah. How many kids? So normally at the camp there are 100 plus, like somewhere between 100 and 150. This was the first year the camp was able to be had following COVID. They've had 3 years of not being able to meet, and what happens when people can't meet is people move on to other things. And so they kind of had a rebuilding year. So we had about 56, I think, at the beginning, something like that. We lost a few along the way. Not like that, they left.
Only from mine and Kitty's group, which was strange.
Well, yeah, I guess I should mention that one of your campers leaving freed up a cabin for my cabin partner to bail because he said I snore too much. So...
He was getting 0 sleep.
He snores like a chainsaw.
It was funny because I did security at night. And you could just hear everything that was going on in the cabins, including Kurt snoring. And Zach also would snore too.
Don't let that stop you, I guess is the message. So I think it's 1:30. We had scheduled an hour, so we're probably on the end of what we can do corporately. But I would encourage you to grill, quiz, have conversations with all of these people after the fact. There are many more stories than we've ever been able to share here. I think the upshot is thank you for your support. Did you have do you want to get a microphone over there so we can at least hear it? Otherwise, I'll be the only one that hears it.
How many of you plan to go back next year? 100%. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, what I wanted to know is when do you start collecting money for your next trip?
That is a really good question that I don't have the answer to. I would did you say now? Is that what I think Nick is saying now?
Yeah, on our website, if you want to do that, or you can drop a check or money in the boxes here and just note it as for the mission trip. That money will be set aside for a mission trip. So thank you.
And if you want to do that, I would definitely put the word Hungary in there. Just so it doesn't generally get set aside for mission trips. But if you specifically want to fund the Hungary mission trip, you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. If you'd like it specifically to go to the mission trip in Hungary, you can do that. The English camp.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go ahead and wrap up.
Please.
I had the neat perspective of hearing from Lindsay Quinn, the missionary we support in Eger, the city and the church, the Calvary Chapel that puts on this camp, as well as their pastor, Pastor Yanni. Both sent me messages just saying how much they appreciated this group from Whitefield's Community Church here in Longmont. The consistent theme between the two of them was that they came with hearts to serve. It's easy sometimes to get caught up in other things, but this group truly did. They arrived ready to serve, and I thank you so much, Eric and Sarah. Really led the team. Spent many hours making reservations. There was a lot of work that went into just preparing the team to go. And of course, no mission trip is without, everybody joined in. The church supported it financially and most importantly with your prayers before and during the trip. And you can just see, you heard the results of all that. So I'll just finish in prayer. Father, we do thank you for these opportunities, Lord, to be missional as far as going on trips. But it's a great reminder, Lord, that as we go home, to our homes, to our neighborhoods, to our schools tomorrow, to work, that you are on our hearts and our minds, and that you want us to be missionaries in those places. So, Father, do encourage us to do that. Remind us often to do that. And again, I do thank you for this church and for all the support for this team, and I thank you for the campers. And Lord, you're always in it, and we recognize that, and we thank you for that. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
It's all good. Let me get these.